Hello everyone, Larissa Lee, nutrition and lifestylist for highly motivated women ready to lose that 10 to 20 pounds for good while still enjoying chocolate because a girl has got to have chocolate. So today the topic of discussion is whether to go with organic or conventional. Organic or conventional. So which one should I choose? Which is better? Which is worse? Is the money worth it to pay for organic? And which one should I buy? Is it worth it? So the regulating body for organic products is the USDA, and the USDA's definition of their organic products, or I should say what they try to do, is listed on their website. So I have it written down here because I can't commit that to memory. And what they try to do is integrate cultural, biological, and mechanical practices that foster cycling of resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. And what I really mean is ecological balance. So what does that mean? That's a long definition. So what that sounds like to me is that they try to preserve the environment in a natural state, in its natural habitat, and try to promote its growth and preserve everything around it. And when I say preserve everything around it, I mean the actual crops, the air, the water, and most importantly, us as people. Now, sometimes people aren't sure that this whole organic thing is even, I don't want to say real, but is even worth paying the price. And I can understand why people would say that. Unfortunately, the USDA does regulate organic products, but it also has a lot of other things to regulate as well that can be conflicting with that regulation. So the USDA also is the body that comes out with how much portions of certain foods we should eat. They also are the body that promotes the selling of food. So they want to make sure that food is being sold. They want to make sure that food is available. But if you are a person that's making sure that food is being sold, then you're going to do things that make sure they are sold, but not necessarily always do things that prevent that from happening. So a lot of their jobs, I don't know if that sounds confusing or not, can be conflicting and can get a little hairy. But none to say, is it still worth it to buy organic? And we're going to go over a few topics to discuss why we should or we shouldn't be buying organic, or, you know, really it's your decision ultimately, and you can be making that informed decision on your own, and hopefully you'll be able to do that after we go over these topics. So when you're buying organic products, this means that these products were not processed in a way that exposes them to radiation. There were no chemical fertilizers used on them, and also no synthetic pesticides. Now, it's also important to note that seeing the organic emblem on a product does not equate it to being healthy. Many people see the USDA organic sign on a product and think, oh, that's automatically healthy. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means what I just said, that these products were not processed in a way that exposes them to radiation. They do not use chemical pesticides on them or chemical fertilizers. It's also important to know that organic farmers do use pesticides. They just are not in a synthetic form. They are found in more natural forms and are from ingredients that are found in our natural habitat, and they also try to employ different ways of preventing their crops from being destroyed that are safer for our environment and us as people. One of the advantages to buying organic is that you will have less pesticide residues on your products compared to conventional. Now, many people say that you can just wash these pesticides off, and that is true. You can definitely wash them off, but the thing is, the fact that these crops are being sprayed, the pesticides not only get on the outside of the crops, but it also gets in the soil. And where does a plant get its nutrients and its water? It gets it from the soil. So the thing is, I would highly think that being that pesticides are sprayed on the outside, that they are getting to the soil and becoming a systemic problem for the plant, not just on the outside. So you can't always wash these things off. Another thing is that the fact that pesticides are able to kill insects, which are living things, just a smaller version of us, kind of makes me weary and makes me think like, okay, so they kill an insect, what is it doing to me? I'm not the same size as an insect, I'm a lot larger. So what I think is that it's not killing me necessarily right away, but it's killing me over a slower process of time, and that's why I like to stay away from those. Now, unfortunately, studies are not able to show a correlation between people eating conventional products with higher rates of disease. However, studies are able to show that workers that do work on conventional farms that are exposed to pesticides do have higher rates of cancers and other diseases, which is enough for me to kind of opt for organic options instead of conventional. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not buy everything organic. The majority of our food we do buy organic, but I feel that if you can compensate the majority are organic and you have a little bit of conventional, then you're able to kind of tip the scales in your favor. But again, this is an option that you'll have to determine on your own. Genetic modification, also known as GMO, has become very popular here in America today. Now, many countries had opted not to sell genetically modified products at all, and some of them have even opted, who do sell them, to actually have them labeled on their products so people know what they're buying. Unfortunately, here in America, it is not there yet, hopefully one day, but when you are opting to buy organic over conventional, you know that those products do not contain any type of genetically modified organisms. Now, what is GMO? So GMO is actually a product that takes the DNA from another species, whether it be an insect, another plant, or an animal, and puts it into the DNA of that species. So what that does is adds the qualities from this species to go into that particular plant. Now, people like to do this so that certain plants can withstand higher doses of pesticides or be repellent to certain insects or animals, or be able to withstand certain temperatures. Now, it sounds like a good idea in theory because of that, you're able to get a lot more yield for a particular product. But what starts to happen is that us as humans are messing with the genetic code. And yes, genetic modification occurs naturally all the time in nature, but it's different because me as a human being, I'm evolving. My DNA is changing as I go through life. And so are the animals and plants in my environment around me. But the thing is, we're all evolving together. And when you as a human being or a scientist attempt to change the genetic code of an organism, you really don't know what you're playing with, because what you're doing is changing the DNA of one particular gene. But what ends up happening is it causes mutations in other parts of the DNA in that particular plant, which you're unable to control. And like I said before, it's okay when nature does this genetic modification because we evolve together and our bodies are still able to interact with our environment in a natural state. But when you start to interact with something that is not of nature and your body's not necessarily ready for it yet, it can cause havoc in your own system, if that makes any sense. And what we're finding out is that mice that are predisposed to certain tumors, those tumors grow faster when they are exposed to genetically modified organisms, which doesn't look good for human beings. So definitely keep that in mind when trying to decide if you're going to buy conventional or organic. Fruits and vegetables that are organic are a lot higher in phytochemicals. Now, there have been studies that have been done that compare organic vegetables to conventional vegetables, and what they have shown is that there is no different in nutrient content. So the vitamin A in a conventional apple opposed to vitamin A in an organic apple has the same content. The thing is, this is also another hard area to study because sometimes you don't always know what to look for and you don't know always what you're studying. So when you're just studying just one small thing of that vitamin A to vitamin A, of course, maybe you will see that that is the same. But when you look at the bigger picture, you'll see that the fact that you're not exposed to pesticides is definitely a plus. Also, what people don't know is that fruits and vegetables contain a lot of phytochemicals. The thing is, these phytochemicals do not develop until a particular plant is exposed to a fungus, a bacteria, or a virus. So if a plant cannot be exposed to that fungus, bacteria, or virus because the pesticide kills those fungus, bacteria, or virus, then plants are unable to stimulate those phytochemicals. Now, phytochemicals are very important to us and to plants because phytochemicals help protect the plant from fungus, viruses, and bacteria. So when the plant is able to produce these, it's great because when we eat those plants that produce those phytochemicals, we are able to adopt those into our own body and use them as well in our own immune system, and that also helps us to fight off very serious diseases like heart disease, cancers, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, and also helps our immune system to be boosted to prevent us from getting bacteria or viral infections. So when trying to determine if you're buying conventional or organic, just know that many conventional types of products, or I should say types of produce, won't contain those rich phytochemicals as would those that are organic. Another benefit of buying organic is that it preserves the environment. Now I know we're all going to have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and way down the line, generations to come. And we want them to be able to live in a happy, healthy environment that's not contaminated by chemicals, radiation, pesticides, or anything else. And if we continue on the path that we are doing with these conventional farms, the way they spray their fields with such large amounts of pesticides on their crops, in the air, in the water, and in the animals, it's only a matter of time before we don't have the natural resources to take care of our future generation. Alright, so that ends my comparison between conventional and organic. Now, I did not go into buying organic meats because it can get a little bit complicated there, but just know that when buying organic meats, you're obviously not exposed to certain types of hormones and antibiotics that they expose to fish, beef, pork, chicken, what have you, that can wreak havoc on your system. Now, we know we are a system that communicates through electrical impulses and through our hormones. So when we have outside influences and outside artificial hormones coming into our body, that can definitely change the way we grow, the way we think, the way we live, and the way we respond to certain types of diseases. And you notice it every day in life that girls are developing much earlier. That people are a lot taller than they used to be, and a lot of that has to do with the hormones that are found in our food. Also, a lot of antibiotics are used on cattle, on fish, on chicken, so they're not exposed to certain diseases that would then prevent them, or not prevent them, but will cause them to die and prevent farmers from getting their money for their crops, which is understandable. But the fact that they're exposed to so many antibiotics and then we're exposed to so many antibiotics definitely puts a stress on our immune system, and that's why we have so many resistant bugs and organisms that we do in this life. I don't know if you guys know this, but I do work in a hospital, and there are a lot of resistant bugs to a lot of antibiotics, and that's largely due to our overuse of antibiotics, whether that's in the medical field or within the foods that we eat. Now, I know that was a mouthful, but hopefully that was not too confusing for everyone. And I think I explained it in plain English, but that is all I have for you today, and I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next week. See you later.